Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier. 51,000 jobs. 51,000 jobs were lost in the month of January. That is the largest number of jobs lost in 1 month since 2009. This is proof that the economic policies of this government are reckless and unfair. This isn't change that works for families. It's actually hurting families. Mr. Speaker, what does the government say to the 51,000 families who lost their jobs last month?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to welcome everyone back and add my congratulations to the member from Nipissing for being appointed the Leader of the Opposition, and to thank him for that question. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I know that the Leader of the Opposition knows that Ontario's economy is growing. And Mr. Speaker, whenever there is a job loss in the province, the families that are affected, the individuals that are affected, Mr. Speaker, that is a very hard thing to deal with. I understand that, Mr. Speaker, but I know that the Leader of the Opposition understands that the economy is growing, and that in fact our unemployment rate is at a low, Mr. Speaker, a 17-year low, and that Ontario has led the growth in G7 countries, Mr. Speaker. We have outstripped the growth across the country, Mr. Speaker. Answer. And I recognize that even though all of that is happening, Mr. Speaker, there are still people who are not sharing in that growth, and I'll speak to that in the supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary.
Back to the Premier. Years of Liberal policy have led to the worst month for jobs since this Premier took office. The FAO pointed out entire regions of the province were being unfairly left behind last year. Southwestern, Eastern and Northern Ontario saw only 1,600 jobs combined. And just look at what economist Philip Cross had to say about these newest numbers. The January drop shows that gushing reports about a booming economy were wildly overstated. He added the underpinnings to the Ontario economy have looked increasingly shaky for some time. But this government will cherry-pick statistics and tell everyone that everything is rosy. Question. Mr. Speaker, everything isn't rosy.
Stop the clock. I haven't forgotten what I've been doing before we left. Finish, please.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, everything isn't rosy. Will the Premier admit that the cumulative impact of her government policy is costing hard-working Ontarians their jobs, and that's just not fair?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Leader of the Opposition that we have to look at the whole picture, but we do have to look at the whole picture. So we have to look at the fact that since the recession, Mr. Speaker, 800,000 new jobs have been created in the province. We have to recognize that since I've been Premier, 400,000 new jobs have been created, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, we're seeing that growth, but it is not being shared evenly, Mr. Speaker, which is exactly why free tuition, OHIP Plus, Mr. Speaker, an increase in the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which unfortunately all of the leadership candidates in the race for the Conservatives have said they don't support, Mr. Speaker. But those initiatives that support people, that actually help people to deal with global uncertainty, Mr. Speaker, those are the things that we are putting in place, because we're actually fighting for the people of Ontario, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that they have what they need.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Final supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Back to the Premier. The Liberals have been warned by experts that their too fast, too soon, anti-business policies would put people out of work. The Premier was warned, warned again, and warned again. Yet she ignored the warnings for purely political purposes. Though numbers are staggering, youth lost jobs at a rate 6.5 times higher than the rest of the population. Women saw their employment drop 4 times the rate of Ontario's men. Single moms and children trying to earn a living have been targeted by this Liberal government's too fast, too soon, anti-business, anti-job policy. Mr. Speaker, can the Liberals explain how this is possibly fair for Ontario?
So, Mr. Speaker, what I hear the Leader of the Opposition say when he says too fast, too soon, the subscript to that is the minimum wage increase, Mr. Speaker. Right. And what I hear him say is not now, not ever, Mr. Speaker. That's exactly what I hear him say. The people he's talking about, Mr. Speaker, the people who are cleaning our institutions, Mr. Speaker, the people who are serving us, Mr. Speaker, in all of the businesses across this province, if those people had continued to earn $11.60 an hour, they had to go to the food bank at the end of the month, Mr. Speaker. That is the reality that the Leader of the Opposition is supporting when he says, not now, not ever. We believe that in a province as wealthy as Ontario, in a
The member from Renfrew come to order. Finish, please.
In a province as wealthy as Ontario, where there are so many people who are doing so well, Mr. Speaker, and corporate profits are at an all-time high, it is time, Mr. Speaker, that we make sure that people have what they need to look after their families.